In this video, we are going to create a Mojo file to check the properties for a number. We are also going to look at a function that is able to return a string value that describes the properties. And we are going to use if, elif, and else. So let's see how that can be done with Mojo. If you haven't seen the last video, where we started to create a simple calculator, we have basically imported files that we have created ourselves, and we have imported functions from that files. This is the new one. I have created a file called MyNumberCheckfile.mojo, which is this one, and I import a function that is called checkNumberProperties. And if you hover with your mouse over a function, you see that it takes an input, a SIMD variable for a number, and it will return a string. So what does this file do? Well, basically, we have two numbers here, and we use them to do a calculation. In our case, it's now multiply. And when we run the file, we will get an output that says the multiply function was called with 5 and 2. The multiplied numbers are 10. The final result is 10. And this is a whole number and it is positive. Now let's make the first number 5.123. Rerun the code. And this time we get back this is not a whole number and it is positive. So in other words, we get a different description for the number here. Now let's make this one -2. And when I run the code again, it says this is not a whole number and it is negative, which is correct. Now how can we get this description here? Basically, we do a few if statements. We call the function that is called checkNumberProperties with the result that we have gotten from our multiplication here. And inside of this file, we have this function, which is called checkNumberProperties. It takes one argument. It's a float 64 value, because that is what we have defined in the main file for the two numbers that we use for the calculations. And this part here says that the function is going to return a string value. So let's first create one. The name is myString. We use var because we are going to change it below. The variable type is string and we don't assign a value yet. For the second one we use let because we are not going to change it anytime later. The name for this variable is called whole number. And to get the whole number from our result input, we use result input to int. In Mojo, it is possible to hover with your mouse over the function, and at least here in Visual Studio Code, you will get a description of what it does. In my case, it says it casts the value to an int. If there is a fractional component, then the value is truncated towards 0, which means it cuts off the numbers on the right side of the dot for a floating type number. And now that we have these two numbers, we can check if the result input minus the whole number equals 0. If that is the case, we will add a sentence to our string and we will add the words "this is a whole number" because we have no remainder. And the next statement here is elif, which is an abbreviation for else if. And this is executed when the result input minus the whole number is not equal to 0. Not equal is represented by an exclamation mark and an equal sign. So if that is the case, we add to our string the words "this is not a whole number." And this assignment here means that we use the value that we already have for my string, which is empty, and add something new. Let's continue with the else statement. This one is executed whenever if or Elif are not executed. For example, we could say something like, this might not be a valid number. Actually, it's more probable that the whole program is just going to crash. But this else statement would be executed before it crashes. But maybe this will be added in the future. Mojo still is not a finished language, it's a work in progress. Therefore, some things are still missing. By the way, as I say missing, you see the little curved line here? When you hover over it, you get there is something missing. We have an error here that is recognized while I'm typing. So let's add the round bracket and now it's gone. So why do we have something like if, elif and else when we could do all the stuff with just if statements? Well, in this case, a number can either be a whole number or not. It can't be both. So if this statement here is true and the program knows that it's a whole number, this one will not be executed and this one also will not be executed. Below we have two more if statements where we check if the result is either greater than 0, in that case we add and it is positive to our description, or in the other case, when the result input is less than 0, then we add the words and it is negative to our string. And if you just use these if statements, both will be executed. So if you want to create something that is fast and that might have 20 conditions to check, a construct like this one might save you some time. Okay. At the end of the function, we return our string to the main file. Let's save the whole file, go to the main file, and I'm curious what happens when I say the second number is a string. Now let's execute the code, and sure enough, we get an error here because this assignment was made inside of the code, so it's not possible to compile it when it's hard-coded. But in real life, people could actually use an input field that also takes a string. And as soon as we start to use valid numbers here, we get a result and we get the little description here. And in this little video you have learned how to call a self-created function with a number, which returns a string with a description for that number. You have learned how if, elif and else work, and you have done it yourself with just a few lines of Mojo code. That's it for this video. I say thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.